Before we get started for the weekend's performance, I do have to ask, how in the world did you get started? What inspirations did you have to kind of get to this point?
Well, I don't know if they were inspirations or not, but I was supposed to grow up and be a psychiatrist like my dad. And I used to watch all these shows and stuff where there were superheroes. And my brother and I just always would tie each other up with rope. I could always get out, but he never could. I mean, we still feed him twice a day, but I could always get out. I had like a thing for it. And I just kind of progressed from there all through high school. I was doing this into really magic. And then finally, uh, towards the end of high school, I told my dad, I said, I don't want to be 80, look back to the coulda, woulda, shoulda. And so I don't want to go into medicine. So I borrowed the family straitjacket and I chose the path far less traveled.
I guess it's kind of convenient you had one in the family because
It's
your
our
dad's
coat of
profession, right?
arms. It's our coat of arms.
It's kind of like I look behind you now. It looks like it's tools of the trade right behind you.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. That's a real small board of some really rare handcuffs. Well, there's a couple of awards down on the table below that.
Well, share that. What are they from?
They are from the World Magic Awards and the International Magic Award. I'm lucky enough to be the only two-time winner in the history of those shows in the same category. It's never happened. And that category was Best Escape Artist. So that's kind of cool.
I think it's really cool. And speaking of which, you are going to be at the Sorg Theater. What can, an individual coming to the performance expect?
Well, what it is, I mean, it's not like your normal magic show. There's a lot of magic in it, but it's a lot of audience interaction. I mean, you are really part of the show. I don't want anybody sitting on their thumbs, but there will be some mind reading. There will be some intensely original magic because I love magic with an edge. One guy a couple of weeks ago came up and said, he goes, "You scared the beep out of me." I said, "Well, that's my job. That's what I like doing," but also some escapes. And from what I understand, we have a special challenge from the Middletown Chief of Police, David Burke. I believe they're bringing out some restraints and they're going to lock me up and then seal me inside of this airtight container. And I've got to get out otherwise or suffocate.
Okay. So the challenge, do you know more of the details on it? Because you've done this challenge in the past, correct?
Yeah, I don't know all the details because I have not met the gentleman yet. But it's kind of weird because people, you say you're a magician, they go, "Oh, like David Copperfield or like David Blaine." I said, "No, not really. I've actually been described, and I guess it's an apt description, but I go into a town and it's kind of like a gunfighter going into a different town in the Old West. There's sometimes somebody there waiting to hurt you. Helped catch a murderer down in Alabama. Up in Canada, I helped get 1,200 people out of a burning building while I was still tied up with rope. So with our show, you don't know what's going to happen. That's why you got to be there, folks. Everybody watching this show, be at the Sorg October 2nd, 8:00, 50 Shades of Great. I guarantee you will not forget it."
I was reading about the experience with the fire. It was really some quick thinking on your part that really saved a lot of people, correct? Can you share that story?
Well, yeah. I remember like when I was growing up, I lived and breathed magic. And there was a story of Blackstone Senior back in the 40s. A fire broke out in the theater. I think it was a matinee show. And it's illegal to yell fire in a crowded theater because you induce panic. You've got to be careful with what you say. And so anyway, my assistant came up to me. I'm all tied up. The people had just tied me up. I'm still standing up. But my assistant, he whispered something in my ear. He goes, and I thought he said something like, "Check out the girl in the front row." So I'm looking, I go, "Huh?" He goes, "No, there's a fire above your head." I go, "What?" So I looked up, I go, oh. Okay, so all of a sudden I remembered the Blackstone story. So I was still tied up and I said, "Ladies and gentlemen, you guys have been so awesome this entire week. You want to see something special?" And the crowd, there's 1,200 people. They go, "Yeah." So I go, "I've got something special for you. I want you all to stand up and go outside, just outside the doors, and I'll follow right behind you, still tied up, because we have something special for you out there." So they all stood up, they all filed out, they all got out. And then the police chief or the fire chief came and closed the doors to the theater. And they went out and explained to everybody what had just happened. And so the people go, "Oh," and I got out of the ropes, but they told me later on it could have been really bad.
So the question just comes to my mind all the time, especially when I see what you got on your wall. Can you pick any lock? Is that like a skill that you just have? You can just get into anybody's locker, whatever.
Well, okay, in locker, yeah. Back in high school, I was always fascinated with locks and breaking them apart and figuring out how they work. I love learning how things work. But in high school, I became known as the guy who can get into any locker. So I told my friends, I showed them how to pick the locks on the band lockers. And so one time at lunch, we picked every single lock. There's like 30 of these band lockers all in a row. We picked every single lock off of them and moved them all down one and relocked them. And when the bell came at the end of the day for everybody to come out, it was hilarious because everybody's going bam, 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 banging on their lock, and we're just going like. So yeah, I love locks, and I collect a lot of rare locks, but mostly I collect rare handcuffs. In fact, if any of your viewers have some old handcuffs, I pay big dollars for jail jewelry. So look me up.
With that said, is it harder to get out of a lock or being tied up, or a combination of which? Chains? What is it? And then what goes through your mind when, like, because you have to have like an internal clock going, right? Especially when you're in dangerous situations.
Okay, that's a good question. Because I mean, you could sit there and go, oh, I'm always prepared. I'm never scared. No, I'm always scared. When I go to do like an underwater escape or the hanging, I'm the only man who's ever survived an actual hanging. You don't know exactly what's going to happen. It's impossible to know exactly what's going to happen. If somebody tells you, I know exactly what's going to happen, they're full of whatever. But what I do is I take my breaths and then I try to get like really quiet, because inside I try to see in slow motion every single thing that's about to happen, and then see inside the actual lock or the mechanism or the handcuffs. There was a movie that came out a few years ago with Robert Downey Jr. called Sherlock Holmes, and that actually kind of illustrated what I feel, because like just before he got hit or something, he played it all what's about to happen in his head in slow motion. I go, oh my goodness, that's what I do, because it's really weird. It's like when you go, the Cincinnati River, the Ohio River had frozen over once, and they cut a hole off of the Mike Fink down in Cincinnati or whatever, in Kentucky side. And I was going to jump through the hole in handcuffs and leg irons. And I wasn't scared. I was nervous. There's a difference. But again, you're going through everything that you think could possibly go wrong, because if you leave anything out, that's when you die. And you can't afford to panic once you're under there either. So it's not like doing a card trick. It's like, hey, Bob, think of this card. Oh, I got it wrong. Sorry, next trick. If I do something and get it wrong, it's like, oh, he was a cool guy, but we're burying him. So you walk through it like really meticulous and slow right before you do it. And then you taste this yellow stuff that comes up in your lungs or your stomach when you're taking those last breaths.
Wow. How do you prevent from panicking?
I have no idea. I don't know. I never got into the drugs and alcohol. I don't know if that's the answer. I don't know. I don't know. How do they prevent from panicking when they're all of a sudden round a corner, they're chasing a bad guy, and all of a sudden there's a gun in their face? How do they not panic? You set your mind to it. Everybody watching your broadcast today, we've all got the secret weapon inside of us. Sometimes it takes a lifetime for you to figure it out, to pick the lock to your mental block. But we all have this incredible gift. And once you start to get inside it and start to explore it and start to use it, it could be amazing. I mean, I know it sounds kind of weird, but I don't know, you get inside and you feel it.
Has there been a moment or an escape or an illusion that you've maybe your favorite or two that you could share with us?
I liked the hanging a lot. That was interesting because there's really no way to practice it. So my manager said, do you think you can do this? And I go, no problem. It was a problem because you don't know. I mean, you go, okay, this is going to hurt. And it does hurt. But when you come off the back of that horse, great, now phone's ringing. When you come off the back of that horse and your hands are tied behind your back and you're swinging by your neck with an executioner's noose around your neck, it's an amazing series of events that goes through your mind. And I mean, it's bizarre. That's a favorite of mine. That's the summer I got tall. I don't know, just weird stuff.
You have been on national TV. The difference between maybe like something like that compared to a theater audience?
I like I like the theater audience so much better because you actually get to feel it. It's like being in a concert. My show is not linear. It's not like A to B to C. I play off the audience. It's kind of like a concert. When you're on television, you got to really rein it in and stick pretty much to the script. And in the past, I've had some issues with that because I'm used to being live and playing, to the folks. So I don't know, just I prefer live. There's a vibe in the air. I like that connection, that touching the audience, and just whatever.
Do you also feel maybe their tenseness?
Oh yeah, yeah. So, sometimes you can hear them, and it's not uncommon. I won't say it, but it's not uncommon at the show for it to be like dead quiet, and then out of the darkness you hear an oh like that, because you're impacting them, you're touching them, you're having a connection with them. That's what I love. I love that live connection. It's like, what would you rather do? Would you rather go on a picnic and be with your kids in real life, or would you rather picnic with them over Zoom? You want the live experience.
I was also reading that you're one of the only individuals that have like reenacted some certain stuff from Harry Houdini. Is he a big influence? Who do you admire that does your line of work?
That is a killer question, because when I started doing this stuff, I wasn't really influenced by Houdini. I really didn't know who it was. My influence was James West on the old TV show Wild Wild West, Batman, those kind of shows. That's what I liked. Then Evel Knievel influenced me. Then John Wayne influenced me. When I started to get into magic, when I was probably seventh grade, then I got a book on Houdini. I started reading, going, oh my goodness, he's doing what I do. I love this kind of stuff. So at that point, I became aware of who Houdini was. Now, what's really weird is there's a gentleman out in LA who wrote the definitive book on Houdini. And Houdini's weird because he did 5 movies, and his last movie dealt with reincarnation. In that movie, there's only 2 dates in the entire movie. One of the dates is when he was frozen in a block of ice. It's 100 years ago. The second date, he looks at a newspaper. He's been thawed out 100 years later. And those 2 dates are his birthday 100 years ago and my birthday 100 years later. So it's just kind of weird. But the author of the Houdini book, he goes, this book was written for you. He goes, you're the guy. It's like, oh my God, I'm the guy.
Do you get asked, how do you do that? Or why do you do that more?
Oh, you have some good questions. A lot of folks ask, how do you do that? And then I just tell them, it's the same thing that I tell everybody. I said, put your hands together. Now separate your hands. And they go, okay. I go, that wasn't hard, was it? And they go, no. I said, it wasn't hard because nobody ever told you couldn't do that. And that's the straitjacket we all wear, is we believe, or we can do what we believe. And if you believe you can't separate your hands, you ain't going to separate your hands. If you believe you can go to the moon, you will go to the moon. If you believe you can get out of the straitjacket, you will get out of the straitjacket. If you believe you can make success, you will make success. That's that secret weapon we have up here. So that's what I tell them when they say, how do you do that? But a lot of folks ask, why do you do that? And who knows? Water finds its own level. My dad was a psychiatrist. I don't know. Maybe there's something broken inside me that needs to do this. I have no idea.
We're glad that you do, and we can't wait to see you. So have a safe trip down to see us, and looking forward to it.
Do you have an extra second or two?
I do, absolutely.
Check this out. One of our challenges is I give away $1,000 if somebody can tie me up with a rope and I can't get out. So this is just a short rope. It's no big deal, but sometimes the ropes go around your neck like this. So check this out.
I want to know how you did that. I'm glad you're okay. I was getting worried about it right there.
To be fair, my mom doesn't like that much because the head will fall off on occasion. Folks, come on down and join us for an evening of really weird magic. Saturday, October 2nd at the Sorg Theater. I believe showtime's at 8 o'clock. There's going to be a lot of surprises there. I'll be there. Please do me the honor of joining me there.